Hello, my name's Chrissy Hodges. I'm the author of the blog Battling the OCD Demon on WordPress.com. I wanted to do a little extra video excerpt to the blog to tell you a story on the very issue I'm addressing in the Understanding Pure O Part 2, which is talking about the secondary fear of what if I don't have OCD. This is something that's been following me for years, even in my recovery, and a very common worry and fear for people who have pure OCD, mainly because we don't have outside rituals, so people can't see it. And honestly, the rituals they become so part of our life and our perception and what we're doing every single day, we sometimes don't even recognize that they are compulsions. But I want to tell you a story that happened recently that really jarred me during the question and answer after a speech I'd given. I told my entire story of what my life has been like with OCD and the suicide attempt and hospitalization, and it's always, somewhat painful to tell the story. But afterwards, I was talking about Pure O and that our fears that we have, no one has ever gone through with the things that they fear. And somebody raised their hand and said, well, how do you know no one has gone through with their fears with Pure O? I mean, has there been any research or any data to corroborate that? And I mean, it was like I was in a deer in headlights, and not because I didn't have the answer to the question of, oh yeah, let me just go and point to this data that can show you, but it triggered me. All of a sudden I thought, oh my God, is he trying to say that maybe my OCD obsessions are real and maybe people's obsessions are real? And I'm sitting there having a complete anxiety attack while I'm standing up talking about Pure O. And I just had to get myself in check. The truth is, I don't know if there's data, but the only thing that I look at is the things that we fear are phobias. They're things that aren't real. There are things that enter our mind that scare us, that cause us anxiety. And when we have a response like that to a fear or an obsession, of course it's not something that excites us or that we're happy about or we're so excited to think about. And I try to always relate it to something along the lines of fear of spiders or fear of heights. People who have these fears, regardless of whether they were to do exposure response prevention, if it's that bad, or if they really want to work on that fear, I hardly think someone who has a fear of spiders is ever going to want to get a spider as a pet and have it crawl all over them, or fear of heights. Go up and lean over, the Devil's Causeway in Steamboat, which is like a 500-foot drop. So I always try to think about that because we have a tendency to take our obsessions way out of context in the point of, oh my God, this could be possible. What if I'm a terrible person for thinking these things? But the truth is that they do follow the patterns of phobias, and we do have extreme anxiety. And if it was something we are excited about or enjoyed, we wouldn't have the horrible feelings of anxiety and suffering that comes along with that. So for fear of giving reassurance, I'm going to stop talking about that. But I do want you to know that it still happens to me. It happens to many people who have Pure O, so that you're not alone. And in that moment, in the speech, when he said that, I said, well, I can't point you to any data, but, working with an OCD specialist and having OCD myself, I know that these fears that we have aren't something that along the lines, once we get treatment, is something that we're going to engage in and enjoy. That's not how phobias and fears are. And I kind of left it at that. And I, for a few days, I was a little shook up. But I had to remember, this is a natural fear that comes along with having Pure O. The secondary fear of what if I don't have OCD? We're always looking for proof. And the fact is we don't have outward compulsions that can point us to that being the truth. So unfortunately, it's one of those things that we can use ERP to help us with. And I say unfortunately because ERP can be so painful, but yeah, maybe I don't have OCD and maybe this is true. And then you have to go down, you have to go down that path of doing ERP, which is painful, but it works. And that's how it works for me. I used ERP that day, and I use it very often with the secondary fear of, what if I really don't have OCD? So just wanted to share that with you, and just to let you know that this is a common fear and that you aren't alone, and that OCD, you can live successfully with it. Therapy out there, exposure response prevention works. I know it's hard, but if you're ready to live and manage OCD and not have it manage you, please find a specialist and 100% commit, because the therapy does work and you deserve a good life. Thank you, and thank you so much for reading my blog and supporting all the information that I am lucky enough to put out about Pure O, and always keep fighting the OCD fight. Bye.